Okay.
Hello, welcome to our presentation. My name is Ronald Walters Jr.,
And I'm Deville Lazama.
and we're here to talk about the game sales analysis. We're going to show you how to predict the video game sales in the future by using visual data analytics. Are you a video game investor trying desperately to find the next top selling franchise to invest your money in? Well, you've came to the right place because our objective is to help you by using our visual data analysis to help us in our decision of choosing the best video game publisher to invest your well-earned money in.
And this is the exploratory data analysis. This is the information that we use to basically make determinations of the subject. So during the EDA, the challenge we faced was identifying the independent variable. We originally wanted to use publishers, but there were too many publisher categories. After deciding to clean the data, we further reduced the publisher categories to 20. We were able to obtain meaningful interpretations of the data after reducing the publisher to the top 20 publishers and determining that to be our independent variable to be used for the study.
Now here we are able to see a visual histogram of genres per publisher. On the left side of the histogram, as you can see, it ranges from 0 to 1.0. This is the count. On the bottom, you're able to see from left to right the publishers, starting with 505 Games and ending with the Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. On the far right of the graph, you're able to see the legend that talks about the genre and specifies the color associated with each genre. And this shows the top 20 publishers used for the analysis, which was filled and color coded according to the specific genres of titles sold. After looking at this graph, we can see that sports and action genre account for the largest part of overall sales of each publisher. As you can see on the graph, the action is a pink on top, and it covers a lot of the graph. Also, the sports color, because it also covers most of the graph. Next, we have a density curve plot. This shows us visually what we're looking at here. On the left, you can see the density ranging from bottom to top, 0 to a 0.4. On the bottom, as you can see, we have global sales ranging from 0 to 40 million, left to right. And then on the far right, we have the legend that talks about the publisher and associates a color with every publisher. As you can see, Nintendo is at the bottom of the graph, and Activision has the highest density. So this means Activision has the highest rate of global sales, around a little bit less than 15 million. But Nintendo on the bottom ranges all the way to exceeds 40 million in our data. This shows that Nintendo is an outlier. And after looking at this graph, we can see that Activision has density around 0.37. Nintendo has the lowest density, but the highest global sales. This tells us that Nintendo has sold the most out of these 5 companies. This shows that Nintendo is an outlier because they are the only publisher to have sold more than 40 million units of their video game. This model is very helpful because it gives whoever is viewing them an idea of how data analysis is studied and performed visually.
Next is the linear regression. The way we determined the linear regression or classified it was if a publisher would be successful or not. The threshold used to determine the success of probability was greater to or equal to 0.25. As indicated by the stars in this visual, you can see the top publishers with a statistical significance p-value of less than zero point zero 0.05. These publishers are Activision, Atari, Electronic Arts, Nintendo, Sony, Take-Two Interactive, and Warner Brothers. These are the top publishers that you would want to keep your eye on when choosing to invest. Moving on to the next slide, we have our logistic regression. We shifted our focus from the publisher to the industry as a whole. So this has to do with the success of the game title, not necessarily the publishers. And we have the confusion matrix. In the top left corner, you can see that there are 202 true positive observations. For the unsuccessful, there are 531 false negative observations. For the unsuccessful false positives, there are 501 observations. And for the true negatives down at the bottom right, you can see that there is 9,486 true negatives. What this means is that at this threshold, it's difficult to, well, the success is the games aren't as successful as some of the publishers hope they should be. Moving on to the next slide, we have the decision tree. And the decision tree, the way that we did this is we had four categories. If sales were 100,000 copies or less, they were categorized as a bust. If they were 1 million, if they sold 1 million or less, they were categorized as average. If they sold 2 million or less, they were categorized as successful. And anything above 2 million would be classified as very successful. Um, in this confusion matrix, you can see that most of the titles fall under average or bust. There weren't any successful or very successful just under this specific model. Really, what that means is that this model still needs additional work. And it's very difficult at the nature of the data set to predict the successful and very successful categories for finance purposes. Moving on to the next slide, we have our conclusion. So what this is it's a list of publishers and the amount of titles that they've sold. Basically, our conclusion after reviewing the analytics is that we should invest in Nintendo, or Nintendo would be the best option because they don't produce as many titles as some of the other publishers, such as Electronic Arts and Namco Bandai. However, their sales consistently exceeds expectations, and it's the best result for a good return. What this also means is that in this industry, quality is better than quantity. Thank you.
I want to thank you for coming out and watching our presentation, and we hope that this has taught you how to invest into the future video game publishers, and hope that you are strong in your decisions and wealth and success are on their way. Thank you.
Thanks.